thought about different ways that people can train, and basically I've nailed it down to about 3 different states. 3 states of training. The first state, of course, is what I call the trained state. And the whole focus of the trained state is to optimize. What you're doing right now when you're watching me and you're trying to replicate what I do, I would consider to be the trained state. If you're working on your move and your planes are off, that's the trained state. You're trying to focus, you're going to optimize, you're going to sharpen it up. So if it's a little bit wobbly, you're going to keep working on it until it's nice and straight. You know, or if you don't catch it right and you keep working on it, that's the trained state. Most of the time, most people are working in the trained state because that's how we learn. We'll watch a video and we'll try to replicate it, or we'll watch ourselves and we'll say, well, okay, I could do this a little bit better. So think about how often you spend in the trained state, because you also want to consider the other 2 states as well. The second one is the play state. Now in the play state, this is kind of like if you think of a giant blackboard and you are a mad scientist and you're scribbling all your theories and your thoughts and ideas and half of them don't work and you're dropping and you're making mistakes. Well, now you're in the play state, and that is basically you're playing around with theories. And I say the word theory a lot, but that's because I think there's a lot of concepts that you can like put together and see if it fits. Sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. So when you're in the play state, this is basically where you're trying to find a way to innovate your style. Innovate it, so training, you're optimizing it, playing, you're innovating it. You're creating maybe signature moves, or you're expanding what you can do. Like, for instance, what if we bent the plane with a certain move? Or what if I did a turn? Or what if I did a jumping turn with the same thing? We're not really working on getting it to look perfect, we're just trying to see if what's possible. Once you figure out what's possible, you may take that move and move it over to the trained state so you can optimize it and make it look as awesome as possible. So now ask yourself, well, how long do I spend in the play state? Generally speaking, you may want to just think about how often you spend in the trained state and how often you spend in the play state, because both of those combined is going to create a really awesome aspect of your style. And probably one of the most important states is the flow state. And I call it the state of flow because this is like how you put it all together. If you'd like to think of spinning, think of it like I'm teaching you words, and the flow state is how you use that to create a story. This is your energy. This is the way you communicate it. This is like your transitions between moves. So it doesn't look just like you're moving from technique to technique, but it actually looks like you're creating and you're communicating something. Like when you watch, I always like to say dance, because it's not really about moving from technique to technique, as I've said in the past. It's more about just creating a story. So your flow state is how well connected you are to yourself and how well you can connect to the audience in the sense of creating a story or an atmosphere or taking them away. How do you train the flow state? That's really simple. Play your favorite music and see how you can lose yourself. Once you get lost in your state of flow and you're not thinking about optimizing and you're not thinking about innovating, but you're just feeling it and you're just moving with the flow, you're probably in the flow state right there. You're just completely lost in the moment. So think about how often you're in the flow state. How often are you in the play state? How often are you in the trained state? Can you kind of balance them out so you can kind of create the mixture of your style? It's almost like these elements are going to create what you're eventually going to be like as a performer or as a spinner. Let's say you've been spinning for a month straight and you feel like, God, I've plateaued. I can't figure out why I can't get any new moves. Well, you might be spending too much time in one of the states. For instance, maybe you're optimizing all your moves too much, and you haven't spent enough time just playing or just flowing, you know? And if you spend too much in one of the states, that's often a time when we do feel like we've plateaued or hit the top, because we keep doing the same thing over and over again. Even if we're playing a lot, if we don't train it, it may not ever become a part of our flow. You know, we may not actually incorporate it. So we're seeing all these new moves, but at the same time, we're not actually incorporating it. So all the possibilities are there, but we haven't actually worked it into our system. So think of the 3 states, and again, if you ever feel stuck, think if you're neglecting any of those 3. And chances are you probably are.